All right, so let us proceed now. Okay, so at this point, we shall be continuing our discussion on process oriented performance tasks with our discussion on the second topic, which is process oriented learning competencies and task designing. So, in this topic, you are expected to develop a process oriented performance based task based on given competencies and design a process-oriented performance-based task according to your field of specialization, which is of course music, arts, PE, and health. So in your module feedbacks, these outcomes will be reflected. Okay, so I think no, in your one of your outputs in this topic is on the development of a process-oriented performance-based task along your field of specialization. Okay. So what are competencies? Okay, when we say competencies, what do we mean by competencies? So competencies are actually defined as groups of knowledge, skills, and attitudes needed to achieve a certain task. So these competencies should be transferable, observable, and accessible to students. So in layman's language, or in terms that we frequently use and we mostly understand, competencies can be synonymous to the words objectives. Okay? It could also be synonymous to the words standards. Okay? Why? Because they are groups of knowledge. Ano ba yung gusto mong matutunan ng mga estudyante mo? Okay? Anong gusto mong ma-achieve nila after finishing a certain task? But these are not only questions of what knowledge you want them to achieve, or but also it requires them to successfully acquire certain groups of skills or certain types of attitudes. Okay, say for example, when you are letting them work for a certain output in a group within a group. Okay, when you're letting them work for a certain output within a group, you're not only developing their knowledge. Okay, you're not only teaching them certain content knowledge, but you are also teaching them how to work in teams. Okay, so those are what we call skills. And attitude, so that they could not discriminate the opinions of others, respect the opinions of others. So those things are encompassing in a certain task. Those are knowledge, skills, and attitude. So it is part of what we call as competency. Okay, so same as our objectives. Our objectives can be classified as well as cognitive, psychomotor, or affective. Okay, so they are not only there, okay, to develop the knowledge or the cognitive domain of the students, but as well as the psychomotor and effective. So it's important that you know that competencies are transferable. Okay, they should be accessible to students. So in the start of your task, okay, when you explain to your students what the task is, you have to explain to them as well what competencies are expected for them to achieve, so that they will strive on that awareness. Like, or I am aware that I have to be this, I have to do this, I have to learn these things. So in that case, they will be conscious on what to be expected of them, and they will strive to achieve those competencies. Okay, that's important of letting or of explaining to your students what the competencies are, or introducing to your students what the competencies are. Okay, that is why in all my lectures, I have to include there what the learning outcomes are. Okay, so that you will know, you will have an idea or a preconceived mindset that this is what you're ought to do today. This is what you are ought to finish today, or what you are ought to achieve today for this particular lesson. Okay. So, learning competencies, however, in process-oriented performance-based assessment should be, okay, they should be expressed in direct observable behaviors of the students. As objectives are, they should be observable. Diba? Sabi nga natin, objectives should be smart. They should be specific, measurable, attainable, reasonable, and time-bound. So, ganun din ang competencies natin. They should be directly observable. Okay? They should not be behaviors that are latent, or although you say they are verbs, but they are not observable in real sense. Okay? Focus on the behaviors that demonstrate best practice for the specific task or activity. Okay. So yeah, they should be directly observable. Okay. The second thing that we have to remember when we are making our competencies is that they should focus on the behaviors that demonstrate best practice for the specific task or activity. Okay. In other words, this would make your objective specific. Okay, because you are detailing to your students what kind of output or what kind of process they are expected to be observed. Okay, the quality of the process, what process should be followed. Okay, what is the task all about. Okay, so that makes the competency specific. Okay, and yun nga, yung best practice yun is sinasabi natin yung standard of practice. Okay, the standard. All right, so the next slides will show you some examples of a process-oriented performance-based assessment. So this one, paragraph development here in subject which is English, and then the task description is writing a paragraph about the career you are considering, explain why you are choosing the career path, and how you plan to accomplish your goals. So that's the task description of the process-oriented performance-based assessment. Paragraph development. Now, why is it process-oriented? Because you're not really into looking into the output, the holistic or the essay as a whole, the paragraph as a whole, but you're into the details of the paragraph. You're into the details of the paragraph, how you use correct vocabulary as what is stated in the competencies, okay? How you use the correct vocabulary, spelling, grammar, and punctuation, composes clear, direct, concise, complete messages. So, ang dami mong competencies, and if you could look at it, okay, if you look at these competencies, they are very specific, okay, and they have best practices. Well, use correct, okay. The word correct there tells us that it should be correct, okay, not just any type of vocabulary, but the appropriate vocabulary for the context of your statement, okay. Composes clear, direct, concise, complete message. Chooses the most effective and meaningful form to express ideas and information. So uses, composes, chooses, adopts, organizes, tailors. These are observable behavior. You could observe them from your student. So don't put verbs that are appreciate, understand, know, because they're not really directly observable. Another example will be on mathematics, reading and writing money in symbols and in words through 100. Okay, so the task description is get a pair, one will act as a buyer of scrap materials while the other one will act as a seller of scrap materials. The buyer will weigh the scrap materials and compute how much she should pay the seller. Write the value in symbols and in words. So it's not just simply looking into the end of the process, but there are certain competencies that the mathematics teachers wants to achieve by the students. So write whole numbers in symbols and in words, write money with value through 100, and tell the value of a set of bills or a set of coins. So there is a process again. It's a multi-stage task. Okay? It's a multi-stage task. Dapat magawa niya ito bago makapunta dun sa bagay na yun. And throughout the process, dapat na-observe yung competencies na ito. Okay? So dito natin makikita na mas pinapahalagahan yung proseso kaysa dun sa final na gagawin ng bata o yung output, yung product. In science, for example, the topic is interdependence, okay, or symbiotic relationships. So task description, explain and illustrate the roles of and relationship among producers, consumers, and decomposers in the process of energy transfer in the food web. I should explain to you guys that the task description is general. Okay, it is general, and then the competencies are more specific. What do you expect them to to undergo along the way? Okay, what do you expect them to do along the way? Okay, so example, create a diagram that illustrates the flow of energy among producers, consumers, and decomposers. And then the second one is explain complex interrelationships among the various types of organisms in the food web. So in this case, people, yung competencies, these are specific tasks that the student should do in order to achieve what is described in the task description. Okay? So it's like a specific task in order to achieve a general idea. Okay, a general objective. So the general objective is explain and illustrate, so on and so forth. So what should the students demonstrate in order to achieve this particular general objective? Okay? So in task designing, okay, performance tasks requires the students to construct a response, usually complex in nature, so multi-stage tasks. Performance tasks usually emulate actual workplace activities or real-life skill applications and require higher order processing skills. Performance tasks may be individual or group-oriented. Each performance task contained in the bank is designed to elicit a response on the part of the student that serves as evidence of attainment of that particular benchmark. It is important to remember that the types of tasks we suggest have been dictated by the benchmarks. So when designing assessment tasks, teachers should always remember that the purpose of tasks is to provide opportunities for students to demonstrate what they have achieved or learned. Important yun. So ulitin ko ha, teachers should always remember that the purpose of the task is to provide opportunities for students to demonstrate what they have achieved or learned. Not just simply a task para maubos yung oras mo. Okay, na gagawin nila sa isang buong linggo para hindi ka na magturo. It should be a demonstration of what they have achieved or learned. At the end of the day, our performance tasks are not just simply activities. They are assessment strategies. And the very reason why we implement several assessment strategies in order for us teachers to know whether our students have learned or did not learn. Okay? So therefore, it is essential to determine the learning competencies to be exhibited by your students. Then, the learning competencies will be the basis of the teachers in designing the tasks. So when choosing the best assessment task, it is necessary to be guided by the following criteria outlined by, I don't know how to pronounce this, but I pronounce this as Bode, okay, Bode in 1998. So what are these criteria according to Bode? No? Sabi niya, the task is authentic. It's the same thing that we have discussed in our previous topic. Okay, parehas lang, they are just reworded. No, it should be the task is authentic and set in a realistic context, the very essence of authenticity or authentic assessment. They are worthwhile learning activities in their own right, so they should be interesting towards our students. They will not feel any disappointment or second thoughts about doing the activity because they feel like, oh, maganda tong activity na to, dapat kong ginagawa, itong ginagawa ko dapat. Okay, the assessment permit a holistic rather than a fragmented approach. So holistic, okay, hindi naman ibig sabihin nito guys is that when you design a performance task, it's not, kahit sabihin natin na dapat performance task tayo, it's not like everyday magpo-performance task ka. No, because in that way, you are not developing holisticity of competencies eh. Okay? Say you have 3 lessons and you can design a task, a performance task that could actually cover those 3 lessons. Okay, those 3 lessons. Na makikita mo kung natutunan ba nila yung lesson 1 mo, yung lesson 2 mo, or yung lesson 3 mo. So, malimit kang makakita ng mga teachers na nagde-design ng performance task for an individual lesson. No. Okay, hindi siya advisable kasi it would consume a lot of your time. And it would exert, you are expected to exert a lot of effort there kung everyday ka magpa-performance task. And nakakapagod din at nakakasawa para sa part ng mga estudyante mo. So at least, no, kung meron kang 3 lesson or 4 na lesson na pwede mong designan ng isang task that would cover all the lessons, that could foster yung holisticity ng activity mo, mas maganda yon. Kesa naman dun sa fragmented siya, na walang mabuo yung bata, nakahulugan, okay, the students will not be able to make meanings out from that fragmented activities. Okay? The tasks are not repetitive for either students or the teacher, so they should work as productive use of time for all those involved, as what I've mentioned. Okay. So the assessment prompts student self-assessment. Okay, so they have the tendency to reflect while they're doing the task. That's very good. Okay, yung habang ginagawa nila, iniisip nila, am I doing the right thing? Okay. So, hindi pala. So, dapat ganito ang ginagawa ko. So, nagkakaroon siya ng self-assessment. Okay? The tasks are sufficiently flexible for students to tailor them to their own needs and interests. So, tasks that are not standardized. Tasks that could, explore their creative side and individuality. Okay? The assessment is not likely to be interpreted by students in a way fundamentally different of that to the designer. Kaya nga importante na naipapaliwanag natin ng maigi sa ating mga estudyante kung ano yung ine-expect natin sa kanila. It would help if you have an exemplar, if you show them an exemplar. Okay? If you have been doing this performance task for a couple of times, for a couple of years already, then you could show them an exemplar of what they are expected to do or expected to demonstrate in the performance task. The task does not make assumptions about the subject matter or the learner, which are differentially perceived by different groups of students and which are irrelevant to the task. Okay. Another example will be lesson planning. Ito, outcome mo, students will be able to develop lessons reflective of different learning styles and Gardner's theory of multiple intelligence. So what is the task? Divide students into 8 groups, assign each group one of the 8 intelligences, have groups design a classroom activity that teaches a concept, and then they can select the specific content, and from that they should start writing an outcome for the lesson. So this is a process oriented because along the way, along the creation of the lesson plan, they will be able the teacher will be able to guide the students on how they identify the learning objectives, design appropriate activities, and create authentic assessment. In this case, crucial yung prior knowledge mo kasi hindi ka man makakagawa ng lesson plan I should say, kung hindi mo naman alam in the first place kung ano ang lesson plan at ano ang components ng lesson plan. Okay, so, as your check your knowledge activity for this particular topic, you comment your example of a process-oriented performance task down below. Okay, so what's the topic? You have to choose a topic in your field of specialization. It could be among music, choose among music, arts, PE, and health. You have to be very specific on that particular topic. And then what is the outcome? Okay, just the outcome. So topic, and then the outcome. Okay, so again, you can write down your comments on this particular task, okay, until Friday. Or let's say until Sunday na lang, until Sunday. End din ng quiz yun ng Sunday. So until Sunday, you could comment your examples here. That will serve as your attendance, and that would give me an idea, or that would add to my log in my monitoring that you guys are really watching my lecture videos. Okay, so that's topic 2. Now let us move on with scoring rubrics, but that will be up for another video. So just click the just go back and look at my YouTube channel, and then find for topic number 3 on scoring rubrics.